Between the stories we tell, there are the stories that shape them. While we prepare for the next season of Haunted UK Fiction, we're taking a moment to step away from the stories and into their origins. Ink and Influence is a short-form series exploring the authors, ideas, and moments that gave rise to some of the darkest and most enduring works of fiction. In this episode, we turn our attention to H.P. Lovecraft and the terrifying idea that changed horror forever. Nearly a century after his death, Howard Phillips Lovecraft remains one of the most influential figures in horror fiction. His works have inspired countless books, films, television series, video games, and tabletop adventures. His most famous creation, the tentacled entity known as Cthulhu, has become so deeply embedded in popular culture that even people who have never read a Lovecraft story are likely familiar with the name. But Lovecraft's true contribution to horror wasn't a monster. It was a worldview. Most horror stories ask a simple question: can the monster be defeated? Lovecraft asked something far more unsettling. What if humanity isn't important enough for the monster to notice? This idea became known as cosmic horror. Rather than portraying the universe as a place governed by justice, meaning, or divine purpose, Lovecraft imagined a cosmos that was vast, ancient, and utterly indifferent to human existence. In his stories, humanity occupies only a tiny corner of reality, and beyond our understanding lie entities older than civilization itself, beings so immense and alien that merely glimpsing the truth about them can shatter a person's sanity. This philosophy didn't emerge from nowhere. Lovecraft was fascinated by science from a young age, particularly astronomy. As a boy growing up in Providence, Rhode Island, he spent countless hours studying the night sky. He published amateur scientific journals, wrote articles about astronomy, and eagerly followed scientific discoveries. While many horror writers look to ghosts, folklore, and superstition for inspiration, Lovecraft looked upward. The expanding universe revealed by modern science filled him with both wonder and dread. Each new discovery seemed to make humanity smaller. The stars no longer revolved around us. The universe wasn't built for us, and perhaps we were not nearly as significant as we imagined. This scientific perspective became the foundation of his fiction. In Lovecraft's stories, monsters are rarely supernatural in the traditional sense. They're often extraterrestrial, interdimensional, or ancient life forms that exist according to laws humanity cannot comprehend. The terrifying truth is not that they're evil, it's that they simply don't care about us. Yet while Lovecraft looked toward the stars, he was equally fascinated by the past. He loved history, particularly colonial New England. Forgotten villages, decaying architecture, Puritan legends, family secrets. Many of his most famous stories unfold in crumbling towns where the past refuses to remain buried. Places like Arkham, Innsmouth, and Dunwich feel ancient because they're rooted in Lovecraft's fascination with New England's history and folklore. In many ways, his stories exist at the intersection of two obsessions: the deep past and the infinite future, humanity caught between ancient mysteries beneath its feet and unimaginable horrors among the stars. Another recurring theme throughout Lovecraft's fiction is madness. His characters are scholars, scientists, antiquarians, and explorers, people driven by curiosity. Again and again, they uncover knowledge humanity was never meant to possess. A forbidden manuscript, an ancient ruin, a hidden truth about the universe, and what they discover changes them forever. This idea was central to Lovecraft's philosophy. He believed that human beings survive because there are limits to what we know. In one of his most famous passages, he described humanity as living on a, quote, placid island of ignorance, end quote, surrounded by vast oceans of incomprehensible truth. For Lovecraft, the greatest terror was not death, it was understanding. Ironically, despite the countless cults, forbidden books, and occult rituals found in his stories, Lovecraft was not a believer in the supernatural. He was a committed atheist and materialist. He didn't believe in magic, ghosts, or divine intervention. The occult fascinated him, not because he thought it was real, but because it created an atmosphere of mystery and dread. In many Lovecraft stories, what appears to be magic ultimately proves to be a form of science that humanity does not yet understand. The monsters are not demons. They're something stranger, older, and entirely outside human experience. No discussion of Lovecraft would be complete without acknowledging one of the most troubling aspects of his legacy. Lovecraft held deeply prejudiced views, many of which were reflected in both his personal writings and his fiction. His fear of outsiders, foreign cultures, and racial difference influenced a number of his stories and remains a source of discomfort for many modern readers. These views were extreme even by the standards of his own era. Today, readers continue to grapple with the contradiction at the heart of Lovecraft's legacy. A writer whose imagination transformed horror, but whose personal beliefs often reflected fear and intolerance. Many modern authors have chosen not to ignore this aspect of his life, but to confront it directly, examining both his influence and his flaws. Despite these complications, Lovecraft's impact on horror is impossible to overstate. His influence can be seen in writers such as Stephen King, Ramsey Campbell, Clive Barker, and countless others. Films, games, novels, and television series continue to draw from his ideas. Even creators who've never read Lovecraft often find themselves working within a framework he helped establish. The notion that humanity is small, that reality is stranger than we can imagine, and that some truths are too vast to comprehend. Those ideas continue to resonate because modern science often presents us with similar questions. We're continually reminded of how little we truly know. Perhaps that's why Lovecraft endures. Not because of Cthulhu, not because of tentacled monsters or forbidden books, but because he transformed horror from a fear of what lurks in the dark into a fear of what waits beyond the limits of human understanding. If you enjoyed this, you'll find more stories waiting in our feed, and a new season not far behind. Thank you for listening. Until next time, stay safe and take care.